Does this sound like you? You are studying for the digital SAT and you really desperately want to get 30 to 50 more points in just a couple days before the test. You know your stuff pretty well, but there are still things that really challenge you, Desmos tricks that you don't know. This is a super common feeling and I am here today to help you snap out of that. I'm gonna show you a few super quick fixes and tips that you can use to get your dream score on the SAT without having to spend weeks and months studying. So many students want to hit their dream score and I'm gonna help you, so follow along and let's see if we can do this together. Today, I'm gonna show you a few awesome Desmos hacks and some traps that I think the SAT is setting that's causing your score to go down and stay down. And this is how you're gonna get those last really quick 30 to 50 points without having to cram for hours and hours and hours. Let's get started with question AC4 from the College Board question bank. In the given equation, S and R are constants, S is greater than 0. If the equation has infinitely many solutions, what's the value of S? Now, if you paid attention in your Algebra 1 class, maybe back in 8th or 9th grade, you're probably like, okay, infinitely many solutions, so maybe I can distribute out, maybe I can reduce the fraction. Too much, because the SAT is trying to help you make a mistake arithmetically. Instead, they want you or need you to be thinking more strategically. So instead of doing all that work, I'm seeing infinite solutions, and infinite solutions means to me that every step along is going to be equal, so we can set them equal to each other using regression on Desmos. Regression is when we put the little squiggly line in between the equation and place the equal sign and tell Desmos, hey, give me back the values that make this true. So I'm going to type in exactly what I see, except instead of x, I'm going to say x1. That's a quirk that Desmos has. You can't say x or y, you have to say x1 and y1 for regression. Minus s over 13, squiggly line r times x1 minus 8. Now we haven't gotten the correct answers yet because it's trying to find x as a parameter as well, but we want this to be true all across x. So I'm going to tell Desmos, hey, just give me 5 random values for x, and now I can see that the value of s is 403. Isn't that so much easier than dividing everything by 4 here in this fraction and then doing this next step? I don't like doing all that. I want to make my life easy as possible. Let's take a look at this next question. This is a huge trap where Desmos can really help you. The cost of running the canopy for up to 10 days is this thing, blah, blah, blah. Which of the following equations gives the cost y? Now, you might be tempted to try to solve this by using the constants and all of that. Don't do that. Instead, go to Desmos and add in a table. This is gonna save you time and increase your accuracy in a very major way. First, I'm gonna put in the point that I know. On the first day, I spend $430. And then each day from there, it goes up $215 more. So I'm just gonna say 2, and then if I'm feeling super lazy, I might even just say 430 plus 215 instead of whatever that number is. And when I click the regression, look, I actually get my answer right there. Now you've avoided the mistake that most people make, which is saying that the correct answer here should be answer choice D, because they think 430 is the y-intercept. But as you can see now, that's not true. And that's especially not true because it's not the value on day 0, it's the value on day 1. So that's not the y-intercept. But you don't have to know that. You can just get those points and save some time. Here's a place where Desmos is trying to trick you. And if you use Desmos, it might not work. But this is a real big SAT trap that I hope you can avoid now that you're watching this video. For the function f of cx equals x minus 8, where c is a positive constant. What does that mean? I don't really know, right? Because where is that c coming from? So one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to solve for this expression. I know that the f of 2 is equal to 35, which means I'm plugging in 2 for c of x. So 2 is equal to cx. How did I know that? Because it's the f of cx, which means every place I plug in, I'm plugging in that cx. So cx equals 2, not just x. And now that cx is equal to 2, I'm going to solve for c or for x. But I kind of like the idea of solving for x so then I can plug in something. And let me show you what I mean. If I divide both sides by c real quick, I'm just going to get x equals 2 over c. And I actually have x defined by itself over here in this equation, x minus 8. So I'm going to say, since 2 over c is equal to x, 2 over c minus 8 is equal to what? Well, it's equal to 35. How do I know it's equal to 35? Because that's what I'm told in the problem. So now that I know that it's equal to 35, I gotta get better with my penmanship. Now that I know that it's equal to 35, I can just solve for c, and I can use a Desmos regression on this step if I wanted to. So I'm just gonna say 2 over c minus 8 square between line 35. Now you don't have to even deal with any fractions. This is the answer that you get. It also would translate to 2 over 43, but SAT doesn't care if you put it in as a fraction or decimal as long as you don't truncate that decimal. Now let's take a look at question number 35. We're making great speed. A dairy farmer uses a storage silo that is in the shape of a right cylinder above. Here's the mistake that most people are making on this one. They're racking their brains thinking back to what their geometry teacher must have taught them a long time ago. But what they should be thinking about instead is using the reference sheet. And what does the reference sheet tell us? The reference sheet gives us all of the volume formulas, pi r squared h for a cylinder. And so all I have to say now is that 72 pi is equal to pi times r squared, I don't have r squared yet, times h, and the height of this is going to be 8. So now I'm just going to do all the canceling out, get rid of my pi's, divide both sides by 8. 9 is equal to r squared, which means the radius is equal to positive 3. Don't plug that in though. We're going to say the radius is equal to 6, or diameter. Now, here's a way you can get over that. I'm going to talk about this a little more later in the video. I know that I'm solving for the diameter and they underline it, which is telling me, hey, we don't think you're going to remember this unless we really call it out. So I'm going to say d equals blank. And then before I finish the problem, I'll just come in and make sure this is filled in. Once it's filled in, that's how I know that I did well. Let's take a look together at question number 19. I want to show you one final trap that the SAT is setting. They want you to go to Desmos on this one to trick you. What they're asking you here is not to go to Desmos because it's going to take a lot of time to put in all these numbers. You might put in a number wrong and that would ruin you. Instead, they want to see if you understand that two graphs with different shapes have different standard deviations. So all I need to know here to get this question almost all the way right is that the standard deviation of A and B are going to be different because these graphs don't have the same shape. See how it goes up, like, and then down, and then a little bit up? That's not what it looks like on B, but that is what it looks like in A. Since I'm not drawing these the same, it's not the same shape. So the standard deviations are not going to be equal. And we barely need to know any more information than that, but I will show you one final thing. So I know Roman numeral 2 is false, and now I just have to choose between A and D. At this point, you have a 50-50. Luckily though, you know that the median is the middle, so I'm just going to cancel out the highest and lowest term on each side until I'm left with 1 in the middle. And I am going to be left with 1 here because it's going to be an odd number of values in the data set. Cancel, 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 bum, 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 bum. Median is right here in the middle at 13. And if you take the same approach on this side, here's 6 on the right, 6 on the left, 2, 2. Our median is 13 as well. So only Roman numeral 1 is true. Finally, let's take that same approach with the standard deviation here. Do you really think that the SAT wants you to actually calculate this? Go to Desmos and type in STDEV and this entire data set, and don't use commas. You have to use commas outside the numbers, not within. This is going to take you so long, and what if you make a teeny tiny mistake? Instead, they just want you to recognize here that these two graphs have different shapes, right? I see in data set B that the lowest number is around the lowest number of data set A, but the highest number is 4 times higher or more, like almost 5 times higher. So I know the standard deviations won't be equal, and I know that there's enough information to calculate because I have all the data points. So instead, what I'm going to say here is that the standard deviation of B will be larger because the data set is so much wider. Standard deviation, you don't have to totally know the math to understand it. You just need to know that standard deviation is a measure of spread from the mean. So in data set A, it's not as spread out as data set B. Data set B, the points are going to have to travel a lot further to get to the mean, right? This would be like 22,000. This would be like 600,000. Whereas here, this is like 25,000 and this is like 125,000. So the standard deviation of data set A is going to be a lot lower because the points just don't have to travel as far to get to the middle, whereas these ones are going to have to travel a lot further. Now, you can spend time calculating it, but it's just going to take you too much time. Great. Let me give you a couple more pieces of advice, but thank you for coming through with me on this awesome digital SAT problem set for math. I hope that those 30 to 50 points come quickly and even more with this next piece of advice. Now that we've gone over some great problems, let me give you some strategies for walking into the test center to help you in your brain. The test is not just academic, it's also mental. You have to understand this is how I feel and this is how I get over the things that challenge me. So I'm gonna give you my 2 biggest trips that help me up because when sometimes I take the test, I don't always feel like I'm giving it 100% in the brain. I wanna make it easier for myself. So my first tip is make sure on each question that you're writing down the objective. A place where I see my smartest students fail is they'll write down for, like, let's say the question is, if x plus 3 is 5, what's 3x? They'll solve for x and then they won't remember to solve for 3x. So they'll type in the wrong answer, even though getting the right answer does not actually take that much more brain power. So make sure you're writing on your scratch paper 3x equals and then solving the problem. That way you'll know when you get to that problem, I have to get to this step before I finish. Number 2, I have so many students who go to a problem, they look at it, they're like, I don't even know where to start, I quit. And that is a bad idea. Look, I've taken the digital SAT 3 times in person, and my math scores have been 800, an 800, and a 790. So I know how to get most, if not sometimes, all questions right. But I do not know how to get each question right on the first try. Luckily, I rely on my core strategies that I've perfected over time. Can I pick a number? Can I plug in a number for x and just see what happens? Can I back solve? Can I take answer choices or points from a table in the problem to get to the right answer? And can I use Desmos, either to graph or to show something visually, either to do a regression, maybe to calculate standard deviation or mean or median? Now you have the information that you need to succeed. And luckily, if you're ready to succeed, Acely is right there with you. You've got to check out Acely now. I love it. I recommend it to my students. Great work and happy studying.